Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond thrilled today. We are sitting down with the undisputed Queen of Crime, the woman who has kept the world guessing for over a century. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
I am Agatha Christie, though many know me simply as the woman who preferred a good bottle of poison. On paper, of course. I spent my days crafting puzzles and wondering just who done it.
You certainly did it better than anyone else. Let's go back to the beginning. When and where were you born?
I arrived on a lovely late summer day, September 15th, 1890. I was born in Torquay, a beautiful seaside town in Devon, England.
And what was your given name at birth?
I was christened Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
It was quite a family affair. My mother actually suggested the name Agatha at the very last minute while they were on the way to the church. It wasn't planned at all, but I think it suited me rather well in the end.
It certainly has a classic ring to it. What was your hometown of Torquay like growing up?
Oh, Torquay was wonderful. It was a genteel, sunny place full of gardens and the sea air. My childhood home was called Ashfield, a big, rambling house where I spent so many happy hours. It was the sort of place where a child's imagination could really take root.
What was your family life like?
I was the youngest of three, the baby of the family. I had a sister, Madge, and a brother, Monty. We were a comfortable upper-middle-class family. My father, Frederick, was an American, and my mother, Clara, was quite a creative and soulful woman. We were very close, especially my mother and I.
What kind of kid were you?
I was quite a shy child, actually. Because I was homeschooled for many years, I spent a lot of time in my own head. I lived in a world of make-believe. I had imaginary friends, an entire family of kittens, in fact. I would walk around the garden muttering stories to myself. I suppose I was a bit of a dreamer.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
I had a recurring nightmare about a figure I called the gunman. He was a frightening man with blue eyes and no hands, just stumps. He would appear in the most ordinary settings in my dreams. It was quite terrifying at the time.
That sounds like a scene straight out of one of your mysteries. What did you dream of becoming as a child?
For a long time, I actually dreamed of being a professional pianist or an opera singer. I went to Paris as a teenager to study music, but my nerves were simply too terrible for the stage. I was much too shy to perform in front of people.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
Since I didn't go to a traditional school until I was a bit older, my activities were mostly reading and playing in the garden. But when I did attend Miss Geyer's in Torquay, I enjoyed the camaraderie, even if I found the discipline a bit of a shock after my free-roaming childhood.
What was your first job?
During the Great War, I volunteered as a nurse and then moved into the hospital dispensary. That was truly a turning point for me. I worked as an apothecary's assistant, which is where I learned everything I knew about poisons. The dosages, the effects, the smells. It was fascinating work.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I don't know if I felt different, but I certainly realized I had a knack for observing people. While sitting on trams or working in the dispensary, I would find myself constructing elaborate backstories for strangers. I realized I saw the world as a series of puzzles waiting to be solved.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Accepting a bet from my sister, Madge. She challenged me, saying she didn't think I could write a detective story where the reader couldn't guess the killer. I thought, well, why not try? That little sisterly challenge was the spark for the mysterious affair at Styles.
What was your biggest break?
Finally getting that first book published in 1920. It had been rejected by several publishers over 5 years. When John Lane at the Bodley Head finally said yes, it felt like the world had opened up.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Rejection, certainly, and the financial strain after my father passed away when I was 11. We had to be very careful with money. Then, during the war, the constant worry for my first husband, Archie, who was away at the front.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Writing was always a bit of a sideline for me at first. I didn't see myself as a great author. There were times, especially during difficult personal periods, when writing felt like a chore. But the stories just kept coming. I couldn't really stop them.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I never had a proper office. I would write on the edge of the dining table or a marble-topped washstand. But my best habit was thinking while doing. I got my best plots while washing the dishes or sitting in a large Victorian bathtub eating apples. If I had the plot settled in my head, the writing was easy.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I think I would have quite enjoyed being a nurse or continuing my work in the dispensary. There was a quiet satisfaction in the precision of that work.
What was your life like before fame?
It was very quiet and traditional. I was a wife and a mother to my daughter Rosalind. I enjoyed gardening, my dogs, and the occasional dance. I was a very ordinary person who just happened to write stories.
How did relationships change after success?
It was a bit of a double-edged sword. Some people were surprised that quiet Agatha was the one writing about murders. My second marriage to Max Mallowan, the archaeologist, was wonderful because we shared a love for discovery. I spent many years in the Middle East with him, cleaning artifacts and writing in the desert.
Did fame bring happiness?
Happiness came from my family and my work, not the fame itself. I actually found the public attention quite overwhelming. I much preferred being anonymous.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The loss of privacy. I hated being on display. I didn't like giving interviews or being photographed. I just wanted the books to speak for themselves.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People often expected me to be a very dark or morbid person because of the murders I wrote about. In reality, I was quite cheerful and loved a good laugh. I also think people didn't realize how much research went into my work.
What was your darkest moment?
The year 1926 was dreadfully hard. My mother, who was my closest friend, passed away, and my marriage to Archie was falling apart. I felt I was losing my very sense of self.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I sometimes regretted that I didn't spend more time just being, rather than always doing or writing. But generally, I tried to look forward.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
Many people thought I was very sophisticated and metropolitan, but I was truly a country girl at heart. I loved the Devon coast and the simple pleasures of home life.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
There was a time when I felt completely overwhelmed by grief and personal turmoil. I handled it by simply retreating for a while. I needed to find Agatha again, away from the pressures of being Mrs. Christie, the author.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It allowed me to travel, which I loved. Archie and I even went on a world tour and learned to surf in Hawaii. I was one of the first British women to do it. It also allowed me to buy back my childhood home, Ashfield, for a time, which meant the world to me.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My mother, without a doubt. She encouraged my imagination from the very beginning. And later, my husband Max, who brought such peace and intellectual excitement to my life.
What was life like in your final years?
They were very peaceful. I lived at Winterbrook House in Oxfordshire. I continued to write, of course, but at a slower pace. I enjoyed my garden and the company of my family.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was still seeing my works through to the end. I had written Curtain, Poirot's last case, years earlier and kept it in a vault. It was published just before I left. It felt right to give him a proper goodbye.
When and where and how did you pass away, and how old were you?
I passed away peacefully at my home, Winterbrook, on January 12th, 1976. I was 85 years old.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I absolutely loved fast cars. In my younger days, I had a Morris Cowley, and I adored the feeling of driving it through the countryside.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were so many theories about my disappearance in 1926. That it was a publicity stunt or something far more sinister. People do love a mystery, don't they?
What was your most unique habit?
I would eat apples in the bath while plotting. I'd line the rim of the tub with apple cores as I worked out the details of a murder.
What was your favorite food?
I had a tremendous sweet tooth. I loved Devonshire cream. I could eat it by the spoonful. And I was very fond of a good steak and kidney pudding.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I enjoyed the tea rooms in Torquay, and later the dining room at the Savoy in London was always a treat.
What was your favorite book?
I was a great admirer of Charles Dickens. Bleak House is a masterpiece of plotting.
Did you have any known rivalries?
Not really rivalries, but I did have a bit of a love-hate relationship with my own character, Hercule Poirot. Sometimes I found him quite insufferable with his little gray cells and his ego. I much preferred Miss Marple. She was based on my own grandmother.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
When I was in the Middle East with Max, I used to clean ancient ivory artifacts using my own face cream. It worked brilliantly to preserve them. I don't think the archaeologists would approve of that today.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Watching the opening night of The Mousetrap. We thought it might run for 8 months if we were lucky. I don't think any of us imagined it would still be running decades later.
Did you ever prank someone?
I was generally quite serious, but I did enjoy a bit of literary pranking, placing clues in my books that were so obvious everyone missed them.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
Perhaps my house, Greenway. It was an 18th century mansion in Devon. It was a large purchase, but it was my dream house, and became a place of such happiness for my family.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't wait for inspiration to strike. Just start. Whether you're washing dishes or walking the dog, let your mind work. And remember, the best stories come from simply watching the people around you.
This has been absolutely fascinating, Agatha. Do you have any closing remarks or stories you'd like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Only that life itself is the greatest mystery of all. Thank you for letting me step out of the shadows for a moment to share a few tales. It has been a joy to be remembered so kindly.
Thank you so much for being here, Agatha. What a treat. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.